and welcome back to all of my Ideas Exchange viewers, subscribers. I do hope that all of you are really enjoying the topics, the podcasts that I bring to you, as well as the amazing thought leaders that do speak on these topics. If you have any suggestions of specific topics that you would like to hear and just get a different point of view on, please feel free to either email me directly. I will put all of my contact details in the description box, or just make it easy. Put it in the comment section and let's see how we can really bring more relevant content to you, our viewer. In today's podcast, I am chatting to Shawn Naidu again, who is the founder of the All Things Are Possible group. We are chatting about character-based leadership development within youth. So stay tuned. Do not move a muscle. Do not even press pause, because you want to really get into and immerse yourself into this conversation. And as I always recommend, whenever I have got Shawn on a podcast as a guest, have a pen, have your notepad ready, because you will certainly be taking notes. Enjoy it. Shawn Naidu, welcome back to the Ideas Exchange podcast. I am excited to welcome you back again, chatting on character-based leadership. And for those of our audience who have not seen previous episodes, this is one of my favorite return guests, just because of the importance of this topic. And Shawn is also a proud member of the Ideas Exchange community, or as I would like to call ourselves, the Geek Squad, because I am on a mission to make geeks be cool again. And so, yes, Shawn Naidu is the founder of the All Things Are Possible group. I'm going to ask him to expand a little bit more on that, because there is an interesting story behind it, and there's a reason why he's so passionate about character-based leadership. But just first of all, welcome back, Shawn. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Inga. Thank you for inviting me back. I really appreciate it. This is my third invitation back to your leadership series. So like I've said in the previous session, I must be doing something right. And so I'm actually wondering, is there a fourth, is there a fifth? But I don't want to be too presumptuous.
Who knows? Who knows? Let's keep people
Let's take
guessing.
it one step at a time. So thank you. It's always fun to be with you on your podcast. And what a great platform you have on the Ideas Exchange platform podcast. Great platform where great discussions are held, and I encourage anyone just to connect, subscribe to your YouTube channel. You have an amazing guest list, and with them comes amazing content and insights as well. Thank you. I can be a part of that family as well.
No, thanks for that. And to your point, it's quite a humbling experience for me, because I consider everyone in that group to be thought leaders in their respective areas of specialization. So it's always a humbling experience for me when you are able to set aside some time to chat to me and share a bit about your respective areas of expertise. And so in your case, it's around character-based leadership. So we've touched on just generally the foundation or the general concept around character-based leadership. And then, as you've mentioned earlier on, we've focused, so there's going to be a few pit stops. So we then focused on general leadership, then we stopped at women in leadership, and now we are stopping on a topic that's and I'm hoping I can speak on your behalf on this one as well. It is something true and dear to both of our hearts, which is youth. And so I want us to segue into why the All Things Are Possible group and why character-based leadership. But before we get there, if you could maybe start that off by explaining to our audience, because we're all familiar with leadership and leadership development and what that looks like, but you are very specific and intentional about character-based leadership.
Mhm.
And if I can connect the audience to the first podcast that we did, because that was something that for me hit me between the eyes. And what I heard you saying was that if you don't have a healthy character, right, your moral compass from which you make your decisions, from which you communicate, from which you develop other people, or the team that's entrusted under your leadership, um, all of that will lead to toxicity, as we are seeing
Definitely.
in the world of work today.
Yeah, yeah.
So that for me was just, that was such a powerful aha moment for me. So
Mhm.
if you could kind of yeah, just lay the foundation for us in
Sure.
terms of the difference between the two, and then why the all things are possible group. So what's your mission that you are on?
Thank you. Well, thank you, Inga. I can definitely say that you have been paying attention to the last two sessions that we had, because you could really analyze what we were talking about. So you definitely engaged. So thank you for that. Like you said, the name of our company is the All Things Are Possible Group. We are an accredited skills development service provider in South Africa. But the thing that really does set us apart is that we are not one of those general conventional skills development training companies. We focus almost exclusively on character development, leadership and character development. And so while we do skills development, which is critical, definitely needed, we've made the decision to focus on the character development of our society, of our leaders, of our women, of our young people. And there is a huge difference between skills development and character development. There is the assumption that when you're developing the skills of a person, you are developing the person. When you're developing the skills of an individual and of leaders, that's what you are doing. You are developing the
Mm,
skills of the leader. But a
yes.
leader is not their skill set. You are your character, you are not your skill set. But the reason
Mm,
why we've chosen to actually focus on leadership and character development is that during our years of extensive training, development, empowerment of people throughout the country, traveling nationally, meeting with people, having workshops, seminars, etc., we've noticed that there
mm,
was a golden thread of concern in every session that I had, and it always pointed back
mm,
to leadership. It
mm,
always pointed back to how leaders are leading and how they should be leading, but they're not leading that way. And what they, it was just an entire mess of leadership and how they're treating people in terms of behaviors, mentality, etc., etc. And so most of the sessions that I've had actually showed me that we have more of a leadership crisis than anything else in this country. We have a
mm,
leadership crisis, but the issue with the leadership crisis has got very little to do with the skill sets of the leaders. So part of
mm.
the concerns that my delegates have been having over the years that I've been training them is that the way leaders treat them, the way they talk to them, the culture that they
Yeah,
create. And you know for
yeah,
yourself, we have an issue not just in South Africa, around the country and around the world, where toxic cultures are persistent. Cultures are
absolutely.
absolutely
Yeah.
toxic. People are living and working within company cultures where they need to see psychologists, psychiatrists. They need to be on medication just to cope with the culture that they find themselves in. We have company cultures
Yeah.
that are abusive. People have been bullied, intimidated, abused, victimized, etc., etc. Employee mental health has decreased tremendously over the years. But here's the thing: when we looked out, myself and my company, when we looked at to the root as to why this is persisting, we actually found that it has little to do with the skill sets of leaders, because leaders
Mm,
have been perpetually skilled, regularly going for
yes.
workshops and skills programs and leadership development, etc., etc. And so the question that I posed to myself is, why is it that in the presence of great skill, not a
Mm,
lack of skill, in the presence of great academic accolades, years of experience, they persist to be weak leadership, which is seen in the
mm,
way people are being treated by leaders, the toxicity that comes from leaders, how people are being treated, abused, bullied, intimidated, and the levels of corruption. And we probably get to that in a little while as well. And
yes.
then I realized It has got little to do with the skill sets of leaders. It's got everything to do with the character of leaders. And so that's part of the reason why we decided that we need to develop the character of leaders. And so while there are programs and institutions that is focusing on developing the skills of leaders, skills development, leadership development, absolutely great. We applaud that. There will always be a place for that. But Inga, what we've noticed is that character development has been almost neglected within the skills development space.
It's
And so
actually
at the
not spoken
core,
about. Sorry, it's actually not even top of mind for people. We think of EQ, we think of, have you ever heard of such a thing? But we we think of training
for sure.
humility, but character, I can tell you now, in my almost 2 decades of experience, has never ever come up, and that is why I find what you and your company is doing so intriguing.
Exactly, exactly. And so, but if you don't know better, you don't do better, right? And so
Absolutely,
that is why we find
absolutely.
ourselves in an absolutely powerful and unique. And I always say this: our offerings in terms of our leadership and character development program, we have 4 offerings, which I'll get to in a little while. It is absolutely unique in this country. And so our program does not compete. Our leadership development offerings and approach does not compete with other service providers, does not compete with companies who have
Yes.
existing leadership development programs. We come alongside and we align. I need to say this again: you are not your skill set, you are not your education, you are not your brand, you are your character. And so character is the foundation of leadership. That's undisputed. You cannot deny that. Who wants to be led by people who lack character? Even if the person is highly skilled, but Shawn is highly skilled, he's educated, he's smart,
Yeah.
he's brilliant. Yeah, no, good for him. But at the end of the day, if character is not present, abuse is going to be present. If character is not present, corruption is going to be present. If character is not present,
Yes.
a misuse of power is going to be present. So at the end of the day, what we've actually realized is that leaders have not just been, there's an assumption that leaders are being prepared for leadership. In my humble opinion, I personally think leaders have been ill prepared for leadership. Ill prepared for leadership. Why have we been ill prepared? It's because character development has not been a feature in the life of a leader and in their personal development. And I often say to companies, you cannot do leadership development without doing character development. Because if you're
True.
not developing the character of a leader, exactly what are you developing? We need to get off, and part of what we're going to be discussing, Inga, is going to have some element of shock value to it. Probably people are not going to like everything that we are going to be saying, especially coming from my side. They're not going to like some of the statements. And
But
you
I
know,
like it when you poke the bear.
exactly. And so it's not easy things to hear. All right.
Yes.
And so, but I need to say what I need to say, because we cannot have a new generation of leaders if we don't change how we produce those new generation of leaders, if we don't
Absolutely.
change how we are developing them and how we are building them. And part of what we are doing, and part of our slogan is that we are building leaders of character by building the character of leaders. And we affirm believe that the next generation of leaders will only be as strong as their character. And so what we are on a mission to bring character back to leadership. Character back to leadership, but also character back to leadership development. So we are huge advantage in the leadership development space, where we are focusing on developing the character of an individual, where we are saying continue to develop your skills, continue to develop your leadership profile, continue to learn, take in as much as you can, absolutely fine, but you need to include, and we say this to companies, you need to include character development as part of your leadership development strategy. A company strategy that lacks the character development of the leaders who are spearheading and leading that strategy is weak strategy.
Oh, you
I'll
have to
give
say
you,
that one again. No, no,
yeah,
no, don't rush.
company
Say that one
strategy.
again.
Company strategy that does not have character development as part of the strategy for its leadership development is weak strategy. So in other words, if you are taking your strategy and you're putting it in the hands of your leaders whose character has not been prepared for leadership, what do you think is going to happen to that strategy? That strategy is not safe. That strategy is not in good hands. It might be in good hands, but it's in compromised character. It might be
So,
in talented
yeah,
hands, but it's in toxic character. And so what we are saying is companies need to take their strategy, look at the strategy and say, we've been doing skills development from the time that we've existed as a company. Our year budget for training and development is excessive, but all we've been doing is leadership development and skills development, but not character development. And we are saying a leader is more than their skill set, they are their character. And if you really want to produce leaders, authentic, real leaders, you got to develop their character. The ideal leader, Inga, is a leader who's got strength of skill, but also strength of character.
Of
And that's what
character.
we do,
Yeah.
because it's part of our slogan, building a generation of leaders who are not just strong in skills, but strong in personal character as well. So that's our focus. That's our
Sure.
mission. That is the uniqueness that we have, focusing on developing the character of leaders over and beyond developing the skills of leaders.
And that is, and that for me, I mean, it's both profound as well as powerful, Shawn, because it's not often, and I can tell you now, and that's one of the reasons why I keep on inviting you back, because I believe that this message is so important. It is absolutely, it's essential for us, to your point, to get to a stage where we can honestly say, and where we can look in the mirror and say, we have got good, strong, healthy leadership.
Yes.
Only because the character has been developed. And I
Yes.
mean, as you've now laid that foundation, a thought popped into my mind in terms of when we do leadership development. So typically, any leadership development program have got different components, right? There are key
Yes.
ingredients when you're trying to make or bake this cake. And part of that is coaching, part of that is mentoring. And typically, when you look at coaching and mentoring and the individuals who you designate to do the coaching and to do the mentoring, more often than not, and depending on the size of the business, more often than not, we try and designate internal individuals to do that. Yes, so here's the rub in this. Here's the conundrum.
Yeah.
Is that if there's already almost this, and I must be careful with my choice of words. Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody, but if there is already a bad undertone
Yes.
of weak leadership, and when I say weak leadership, what I'm talking about is there's not a strong reflection of character, right? There isn't a strong reflection of moral code, creating carbon copies of this bad leadership. So it becomes um, a systemic pandemic of bad leadership. And I think maybe as we flesh out how to develop and mold and shape youth, just because we have the opportunity here now to do things differently, right? We have the opportunity here not to kind of get stuck in that insanity cycle expecting something new. But I think it is about then saying, okay, we have to commit to do things differently. And I like the fact that you are going to land some very tough thoughts. You're going to learn some very tough concepts, because it's in that space and in that posture of discomfort where you have to make one of two decisions. You either then decide, okay, I'm just going to stay and mellow and stew in my mud of bad leadership, or I'm actually going to take on that call. I'm going to take on that challenge, and I'm going to do something different. So when we look at youth development and shaping the youth, then we have to be very clear about the traits and the character. No pun intended. The character of who we select as a coach, the character and the traits of people we select as mentors.
Yes.
Because yes, you're teaching the skills, but that's got a very clear start and end date. But the coaching and the mentoring is continuous. And that should actually be a lifestyle of any organization that wants to promote itself as a learning organization, or an organization that has a learning culture. So that is just what kind of popped up in my mind, is that needs to be almost a cautionary statement that going forward, any business, any company that is looking into developing and building the leaders, you have to be so clear and specific about who you select as coaches, who you
Yeah,
select as mentors, that they have that they do reflect healthy character.
definitely. And I love what you're saying. And often the best person to coach a particular staff member or a team of members is an external coach.
Mm.
Unbiased, doesn't know the politics of the organization,
Impartial.
doesn't
Yeah.
have favorite, totally impartial, not
Yeah.
completely unbiased, doesn't know the politics of the organization, comes in with nothing to lose and willing to share the absolute truth, and be blatantly open and honest with the individuals and with the organizations. And so I fully agree with you. And one of the things that you mentioned, which I'm going to latch onto, is the fact that we are training young people,
Yeah.
right? We think we are developing young people by skilling them, and there's a place for skills development, and I will talk about
Absolutely.
that in a
Yeah.
little while. There's assumption that as long as our young people, and just generally anyone who's listening to this podcast, there's an assumption that as long as a person is doing skills development, they are being empowered, they are being developed, etc. And that's not necessarily true. How many people do we not know, Inga, who are first, they're sitting right in the front of the skills development workshop. They are front and center. They first day, they last out. They at every single workshop. But if you were to find out
Mm.
who's the biggest problem in the company, that very same individual.
Very true.
So
Very
what is
true.
the skills development done? And so often skills development, which is, listen, I love skills development. It is needed. I'm not
Yes.
just this skills development. We do skills development, but my issue with
Yes.
skills development is this, and it's not with skills development, it is the implementers of skills development. It is
Correct.
companies, it's organizations, it's those in HR, those in leadership development, organizational development, etc., where unfortunately they don't know better, Inga, because they think that whatever problem an organization has, to take an individual from one level to the next level, it's got to be on the ladder and on the step of skills development, or skills
Mm.
development will take you to the next level. And that's not
Yeah.
necessarily true. What companies don't realize is that for the most part, Inga, I can say this with confidence, companies think they've got skills problems, when in the
Mm.
reality they've got character problems. That is why a
Mm.
company can invest hundreds of thousands, millions of rands in skills development, but it doesn't change the individual, doesn't change the culture, doesn't change the leader. It's the
Yeah.
same old, it's the perpetual cycle. So what is your skills
Yeah.
development doing? Let me say this. Where skills is a problem, skills development is the solution. But you got to be real sure that it is a skills problem. But if you don't know
Yeah.
that it's a character problem, you will never know that you need a character solution. And so
So,
that's the uniqueness of where we position ourselves, Inga, where we say
yeah.
to companies and we say to clients and we say to the public, we say to government and corporates, private,
Yeah.
public sector, we say, guys, we need you to consider this, that the issues that we are facing as an organization, as a company, as a country, including our youth, may have very little to do with the skill sets of the individuals and the company, but
Mm.
everything to do with the character of the individual. So we are saying to companies,
Mm.
consider character. We are putting character back on the table because I don't know who it was that took character off the table, but
True.
somebody took character off the table. And character,
True.
people of character are a problem to people who don't have character. Let me say that, Inga. People
Yes.
of character are a problem to people who don't have character. That is why we need to raise a generation and an army of character strong people so they can be problems. Be problems. We raise problems. We're raising people of character to be problems to people who don't have character, so that they can be
Yeah.
problems to those that are corrupt. Let me say this culture of silence. One of the reasons why we have this culture of silence and
Mm.
protecting ourselves and my interests and not having to expose this and that is because there's weakness of character. I don't want to get involved. It's got nothing to do with me. No, it's got everything to do
Yeah.
with you. The
Yeah.
silent bystander looks at an injustice and says, because it doesn't involve me directly, I'm not going to do anything, not going to say anything. I see the abuse, the victimization, da, da, da. But we're raising a generation of character strong people who will say, I'm going to raise my voice and speak out
Mm.
against this, speak out against that, etc., etc.
Mm.
So,
So, sorry, Sean, before you continue, I almost want to say that I wouldn't use the word, uh, that we in a society of silence. I actually want to state it more strongly to say that it's a society of apathy.
here we go.
We are a people that are apathetic. So if
Yes,
it's not, to your point, if it's not affecting me and my life, as long as I'm living my best life, because that's the other axiom, right? Living your
yes,
best life now.
sure.
And I believe that that's one of the things that are creating and feeding into bad character. Because to your point, we're raising if we're raising problems, what we are saying here is we're raising people that can challenge the status quo. We're
Definitely.
raising people that can speak up and who are very clear on what's right versus what is wrong. So
Absolutely.
by raising up these individuals, what we are trying to do, or sorry, when I say we, I mean you and your company, what you're trying to do is eradicate the
Yeah,
very presence of apathy, because it's in
definitely.
that apathy where there's
Exactly.
no action and no
Absolutely.
change.
Absolutely. And when action needs to happen and change needs to happen, it needs to be the right action and the right change. Throwing skills
Absolutely.
development at a young person and at an individual is absolutely great. But when a person has a level, listen, when a person has got respect issues, there's disrespect, intimidation, victimization, a lack of integrity, those are not skills issues. Integrity is not
Mm,
a skill. Integrity
mm,
is not something that you go and read on the internet or sit in a workshop and you read about leadership, you read about integrity, and then suddenly now, just because this information has come into your intellect, now you become a person of integrity. No, 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 no. And that's the thing that sets us apart, Inga. I
mm,
need to say this, our approach to leadership development and character development is not a copy and pasting. It's absolutely unique. The content of what we do, the approach of what we have, the delivery, absolutely unique. And so it's not a matter of, there are other companies who are doing moral-based leadership and they are doing value-based leadership and they talk about morals and no, that's great, absolutely great. But ours goes beyond being transactional, because part of the issue with many of the modules on not on character but on value-based leadership, moral-based leadership, and out of morals and values and ethics in the workplace kind of thing, it's purely informational. You are taking information and telling people what they already know.
mm,
That's not sufficient. So while it is informational, it is not transformational. And so our approach is unique in that our approach is transformational and it's not transactional. So we're not just presenting
mm,
information to you just for the sake of presenting information to you and telling you what you already know, that you must be a person of integrity, you must be a person of respect, and you must be self-control, all those traits of character. We don't even discuss traits of character because everyone knows what character is and what are character traits. You go and ask the most unethical person, the most aggressive person, who even the person who lacks character, has got virtually weak character, and you go and ask them what does strong character look like, they would give you the
mm,
perfect answer because they know intellectually what character is. But if you were to
mm,
ask them, why do you have weakness of character? What's the root cause of your weakness of character? How do you change your character? How do you build your character? It's completely different at the end of the day. Let me just,
so true.
Inga, before I get specifically into youth leadership, uh,
Mm,
character development, I wanna ask the question: why does character matter? So I know we have our audience that are watching, and they probably asking themselves, but why does character even matter? But before I even get into that, Inga, let me just say this. I think this is also critical. If you are a parent, you need to watch this podcast. If you've got young
absolutely.
people, you got to watch this podcast. If you've got
Mm,
youngsters in your house and you've got children in your house, please take the time and watch this podcast. I am going to be telling you things that is going to shock you on some level as to how you are raising your children. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
mm,
If you are a parent, watch this podcast. Whether you're a single parent, both parents, watch this podcast. If you are a young person, I challenge you to watch this podcast as well. If you're a preteen, in your teens, you're in high school, you're in college, you're in university, watch this podcast. If you're a young person, and the age bracket apparently is what, 34, 35, and we fortunately we still fall in that bracket, Inga.
very much
So
so.
so
Yeah, we
we
lean more towards the 18. The yes.
so if you fall within that age bracket, I encourage you to watch this podcast. So
Yeah.
you're in the world of work already. You finish college and university, take the time out. And if you can share this, please go like and share with
Mm,
your family, with your friends, with your colleagues. And we are going to be discussing some things that's going to be exceptionally powerful that you want to hear it. Having
mm,
said that, and even for those who are working in colleges and universities, for those who work with young people, for companies that have work readiness programs and graduate development programs, etc., I encourage them to watch this podcast. Even for those who are involved in their companies, leadership development, HR,
yeah,
organizational development, change
absolutely.
management, youth development programs, please take some time and watch this. So, Inga, here's the question: why does character matter for companies and for their leaders, and even especially for young people? Let me just make a few points. Leaders are not credible until their character is.
Oh, say that again.
Leaders are not credible until their characters. But Shawn, I've got credible college qualification. Very good for you. Well done. But you are still not credible until your character. But I've got years of experience. Well done to you. You're still not credible until your character is. But I've got so many accomplishments. I've led big teams. Well done to you. You are still not credible until your character is. The foundation of leadership is character. I'll repeat that. There is only one foundation, and that foundation is character. Everything else you build in leadership and on leadership needs to be on the foundation of character. You build a house on its foundation. Everything else is built on the foundation. You can decide what you want to do, and it's personalized. You can decide whether you want to build a straw house, whether you want to build with bricks and with mortar or with wood, whatever the case is. And your personal style, totally up to you. But the foundation is undeniable. You need a solid foundation, and you can build on that. So on top of the foundation of character and character development, that is where you do skills development. That is where you do leadership development. That is where you do other personal development. That is where you do all kinds of other development. Why? Because it needs to be on the foundation of character. Now, the most important component of leadership is character. And that's what Dr. Miles Monroe says. He says the most important component of leadership is character. The greatest protection of leadership is character, and we're going to talk about this in a little while as well. The greatest protection of leadership is character. And I know in the women leadership podcast that we done, we talked about women climbing the corporate ladder of success, and we cautioned women, and we said you can climb as high as you want to, as fast as you want to, as smoothly as you want to, but if your foundation is, if the foundation of character is not present, both you and your ladder are going to be falling spectacularly from grace. While you are climbing the corporate ladder, make sure that your character is in place, because your character will protect you. Position, and this is one of my favorite quotes by Dr. Miles Monroe. He says, power is not a problem unless it is used by someone who lacks character.
So
Inga,
true.
I think we can all tell stories, either personally or just generally as a country and as a continent and just generally in the world. What happens to people when they get power? All right. Power is not a problem unless it is in the hands of someone who lacks character. Now we're talking about youth leadership development. Inga, here's what we are people. So we're saying to our young people, and this is why we are focusing on young people today. We are saying before you get power, you have elements of power right now. All of us as individuals are powerful on some level. Correct, Inga? We're powerful on some level.
Absolutely.
But we're growing in our power. And there's some, we know this about positional power. Your position gives you power. So there's this aspiration and this obsession with having positional power, because young people believe as long as I have position, I have power. And as long as I have power, I can do whatever it is that I want to do. And that's fine for you. We are saying to young people, your character needs to be in place, because when you have strong character, you will never abuse your power, and your power will never become a problem. Why? Because your character prevents you from making power a problem. Let me go further on to say this. Leaders cannot succeed in leadership while failing in their character. Leaders, and I'm going to be specific, youth leaders, young leaders will never succeed in leadership while they are failing in their personal character. Leaders fail first in their character before they fail in their leadership. Now, Ninga, I know that I'm dropping a lot of nuggets, and that's basically me.
But that's how you
love
roll,
these nuggets. Because
so we'll do a blanket trademarking for all of these.
I think so.
I'll splash TM on the screen.
Please, on everything. You can just have TM popping up every time, just TM. But let me just say this to everyone that's watching this podcast as well, with all due respect, you are welcome to take my quotes and use it, post it, and if it's tweetable, tweet it, but please don't ever let me find you quoting me, but not giving Shawn Naidu credit. Please, let's not plagiarize, let's not be thieves, because that speaks to your personal character as well. Go ahead, but let's give credit where credit is due. Just a couple of other more points as to why does character matter. Leaders fail first in their character before they fail in their leadership. Character creates company culture. And Inga, that's going to be a topic of discussion in the future. Character governs workplace relationships and behavior. Character is the root cause of corruption, and I've said this often. We here in South Africa and in Africa do not have a corruption problem. Irrespective of how corrupt we might think that our leaders are or people are, we do not have a corruption problem. We've got a character problem. Corruption is a symptom of weakness of character. You don't solve corruption by dealing with corruption. You solve corruption by dealing with the character of people who are corrupt. When you deal with the character and you build character, that character will eliminate corruption in an individual. Character governs workplace relationships. It's the root cause of corruption. If character is absent, Inga, the abuse of power, position, and of people will be present. If character is absent, the abuse of power, the abuse of position, and the abuse of people is going to be present. At the end of the day, character is who you really are. Character is who you really are. Let me just throw it back to you. If you have any questions to share.
Not so much questions. It's more just reflection on everything that you've said, and you touched earlier on the term integrity, and I also mentioned humility and EQ. And I think what I would love to do is sort of connect character-based leadership with those concepts or those behavior traits, and to say that if the character isn't there, no matter how much training you're going to put somebody through for integrity, humility, it's never going. You are going to waste your money.
Yes.
Because a healthy character, or rather, let me put it this way: integrity, humility, trustworthiness, having an ethical, self-control, ethical behavior. Those are fruits of a healthy character.
Definitely.
So rather focus, and I always like to say that, when we are trying to solve the world's problems, we try to focus in areas where it's our comfort zone, where it is convenient for us. And truth of the matter is, if we look at the analogy of a stream or a river, that unfortunately, there's poisonous chemicals in there. So now we're all fishing the dead fish out of the water, right? But we're doing it in an area, in a position where it's our comfort zone and when it's convenient to us. But what we are not doing is, and it baffles my mind because it's such a logical deduction. Why aren't we going further up the stream to go to the source of what's causing this?
Exactly.
So skills development, in my mind, and everything that goes along with it, Shawn, is us trying to placate and to fix the symptoms. We are not asking the strategic question to say, okay, what is the cause? Let's really, and I mean, I also want to track back a little bit when you were talking about how when we are doing skills programs or leadership programs, and I mean, I've been there, I've been in corporate, I've headed up a learning team. I can honestly say to you, what I was guilty of is the fact that you get so overwhelmed and you are neck deep in admin work. You are neck deep in business as usual tasks. Tasks and things that do not shift the needle when it comes to leadership, when it comes to really building a strong culture by ensuring that your people understand what are the behavior anchors of the values you're trying to encapsulate? What are the behavior anchors of this leadership framework that you are trying to encapsulate, right? So we can't train something and we can't develop skills if we can't show and mirror, or not mirror, but we cannot model what that behavior should look like, right? So when you're in the corporate space and you are not all of a sudden tasked to bring this program off the ground, more often than not, it's because it's a badge on our lapel, or
Yeah.
it is like, look at us, we've done this, and we want to put this amazing employee value proposition out there. But the fact of the matter is, you did not take the time to really unpack what is the problem you're trying to solve. You did not
Absolutely.
take the time to unpack what does
Absolutely.
a healthy leadership culture look like. And
Mm.
so the decisions to implement these programs, the rest of the decisions are just as bad because you're not taking the time to assess and analyze what the right type of coach would look like that you can
Yes.
link to. And we're talking about youth, right? That you can partner with youth. So let's talk about so graduate programs basically, right? Or internships in corporate. You're not taking the time to actually assess and evaluate, am I actually choosing the right mentor? So we just slapdashing stuff and saying, ta-da, here's the leadership program.
Yes, yes.
And yet you are copy and pasting now the same old, same, or regurgitating the same toxic leadership that, that has been rife in the business. And
Absolutely.
the best person that's going to tell you how healthy or give you a gauge of how healthy or unhealthy your leadership is Joseph that's working on the shop floor.
Definitely.
Is your customer that's on the receiving end of an employee with such bad customer service skills, because
Yes,
it's a
yes.
reflection on what they see leadership modeling,
Absolutely.
you know? And so
Absolutely.
those were
Fully.
sort of the points that kind of just came to mind as you were talking now.
I fully agree with you. And I love what you are saying, Inga, in terms of getting to the root. And this has been part of our approach in working with young people, in working with women in leaders, in working with organizations. It's exactly what you are saying. Let's get to the root of this. And I often make this
Yeah.
analogy of if you got an open festering wound, right, somewhere in your,
Mm,
instead of getting that thing properly diagnosed, you take a plaster and you put a plaster over it. It gives you temporary relief and fools you into thinking you solved the problem.
mm,
Another typical example is if I cough, right? I cough. And if I were to ask somebody to medicate me, they would give me throat lozenges, something to go and gargle my throat with, because the assumption is the problem is here.
mm,
But to do a root cause analysis, you'd actually find the problem in there that probably could be deeper. Maybe there's TB, maybe there's all other kinds of issues, and the coughing ain't got nothing to do with the throat. And so what has happened there was a
mm.
misdiagnosis of the problem.
Yeah.
So we are misdiagnosing the problem. And in essence, what we are doing is organizationally, we've got TB, but we are trying to medicate it with a lozenge. We're trying to
Mm,
medicate it with drinking of water. We're trying to get medicated by gargling the throat to alleviate. And so while it might give temporary relief, the temporary relief fools you into thinking you permanently solved the problem, only to give it a few days and you find, okay, here's a problem resurfacing again. And so here's the issue. Companies don't know that character development is a solution, don't know that character is a problem. Because they don't know and not aware that character is a problem, it is an issue, it is
mm,
fundamental to company culture, workplace relationships, employee mental health, how leaders lead, how they treat the people, because they do not know the role that character plays
mm.
in the everyday life of every aspect of business, and especially within youth development. They will never see character development as a solution to their problems. And so that's the reason why we are pushing, we have created this momentum of transforming the lives of people and organizations, and especially our young people, by introducing character development to them. Let me just make a couple of more points, Inga, just specifically on youth character and youth development. The next generation of youth leaders will only be as strong as their character. I'm going to repeat that. The next generation
Sure.
of youth leaders will only be as strong as their character.
Mm,
We cannot possibly train, develop, and prepare our youth for leadership while ignoring the character that is the foundation of their leadership.
mm,
You cannot possibly do youth leadership development while ignoring youth character development. The only thing more disturbing than the current generation of leaders who lack character are the future leaders who will follow in their footsteps. And Inga, if you were to look right now, I unashamedly say this, and many people will agree with me, we've got a leadership crisis. People don't trust the leadership of this country, be it political parties, and no one political party, all political parties, there are issues. Political parties in organizations, in corporates, grassroots levels, NGOs, all kinds of organizations. People are mistrusting of their leaders because their leaders have proven that they don't have the character to lead with integrity, despite being skilled. So the only thing more disturbing than the current generation of leaders who lack character are the future leaders who are walking in their footsteps. So we have a critical leadership character crisis, and the current condition within societies, the current condition within company cultures, and the toxicity in workplace relationships and its leadership is enough evidence that the greatest threat to company culture, employee wellness, and the future of our youth leaders is not the lack of skills, is not the lack of knowledge, not the lack of talent and education, but the lack of character, especially in the development of our young people. So be it present leaders or future leaders, those who lack character will do more damage to company cultures, its people, and society than those who lack skills and qualification. If we exclude character development from youth development and youth empowerment programs, we are excluding the foundation of a new and different generation of true leaders. So there can be no change in the future, in our future leaders, if we change how we prepare future leaders. I'm going to say that again. There can be no change in our future leaders if we do not change how we prepare our future leaders. Now, I want to ask our question out there to everyone who's watching us. Part of what you said, Inga, you asked about getting to the root of what the issues are, and not just slapping a plaster, not just doing it for the sake of doing it and throwing a skills program at this and that, whatever, but finding out what is the root of the issue. I want to ask companies, I want to ask parents, I want to ask those in educational institutions, those who are spearheading youth development programs. My question to you is this: what caliber of young people do you want in the future? Answer that question first. What caliber of young people do you want in the future? Without a doubt, you want them to be skilled and knowledgeable. You want them to be brilliant. You want them to be smart. You want them to be gifted. You want them to be talented. You want them to be knowledgeable. All of those things. Do you want them to be people of character? I'm going to ask that question again. Do you want them to be people of character? The young people that is in your life right now, as a parent, as a teacher, as an educator, in an educational institution, in the corporate world, you working with young people, you development programs. My question to you is this: you are developing young people, you're developing young leaders. My question is, do you want them to be leaders of character in the future? If anybody is saying no to that question, we don't need you influencing our young people, because you don't understand leadership and you don't understand character.
Oh, that's a mic drop, right? Right there.
Absolutely. If you don't think that the character of an individual, of the young people in your life, is absolutely critical to their future leadership, you don't understand leadership, you don't understand people, and you don't understand character. And you are a danger to the people that you've got an influence over. If you want young people to be people of character in the future, it makes complete sense. It's undeniable. It's not even rocket science. Decide what you want in the future and start to prepare and build for it in your present. No builder builds a house, Inga, without the blueprint, without the plans. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
What you are building now, every brick, in fact, the foundation you are building now, it's not coming from your mind, it's coming from a piece of paper where you've looked into the future. An architect looked and he says, this is what we want to design, this is the future picture. In other words, what you are building now comes from a future vision, a vision of what you want in the future. Based on that vision, you're taking it from the future, you bring it into the present, and as you are building the present, you're building with one eye eye on the present and one eye on the future to make sure that what you are building now aligns to what you want in the future. And I'm saying if we want people of character in the future, if we want to produce a generation of young leaders who are not just, man, let's get over this thing of you come out of college and university, highly skilled, educated, smart, brilliant, whatever the case. Yeah, that's not going to get you too far in life. As somebody once said, your skill will get you through the door, but it's your character that will keep you in the door, behind the door. So decide what kind of young people you want in the future, the caliber, the character that you want, based on the vision that you have for your young people in your home, in your school, in your educational institution, in your company, in your graduate program, at your workplace. Decide the character that you want, the caliber of individual that you want, and start to build character now. If you are not laying the foundation of character now, how do you expect that leader to be a person of character in the future? How can a house whose foundation has not been built, come the first storm, come the first wind, the house falls to the ground, and then the owner of the house turns around and says, but what happened here? You guys built me a hopeless house. No, the house wasn't built hopelessly. You refused to take the time, the effort, invest the money to build the foundation of it. If the life of our young people are going to be falling to shatters and to pieces in the future when they are leaders, let's not be surprised. Why? Because we as the adults in their life are refusing to take the time to build the foundation of character. Decide on the caliber of leader that you want in the future. My question to you is, does character play a part of that? Do you want them to be people of character? If your answer is yes, and I cannot comprehend how it cannot be yes. If the answer is yes, and Inga, I can say this without a doubt, I'm almost 99.9% guaranteed that every company out there that is building, developing, and have youth development programs, character development is not a part of their leadership development of their young people. And my question is, what caliber of leaders are you going to be developing? No, but Shawn, we've got elements of moral-based leadership. We talk about integrity. We talk about ethics, etc., etc. And maybe that's just the problem. You talk about it. You intellectually, you appealing to the intellect of an individual when it's not the intellect that needs to be appealed to. Character does not get developed on the level of the skill. It gets developed on the level of the character level. And people don't know how to deal with the character level because they're so used to developing the skill. There's a level deeper than skills level. There's the character level, but I'm not going to give that away. If you want to know that, call me, email me, spend some money, invest, and then you'll get the value of this. So if we want young people to be people of character, you cannot treat character development like skills development, where it is generic, it is conventional, it is academic, theoretical, and it's content curriculum based. That's not enough to transform the life of our young people. So Inga, when we are working with young people, we are not skilling young people. We are not giving them information on character. We are not doing a transactional, academic, theoretical, curriculum-based approach. We are creating for our young people in our workshops. We are creating a character development, transformational experience. It is an experience. Somebody once said, "You don't."
That's an important distinction to make. Yeah.
Absolutely. So somebody once said, you do not develop character in a day, you develop character daily. Neither can you develop character in a 3-4 day workshop, by the way, Inga. And so even though we refer to it as leadership and character development, youth leadership and character development, what we do in the 3 days, we build into our young people a character consciousness and awareness that they have never experienced in their lives. When they leave, they the ones who build character. We don't build character. Even though I talk about leadership and character development, youth character development, I cannot build anyone's character. I will give you the experience of character development, share the insights and the revelation, and get you to understand you and your character and why your character is the way that it is and how to deal with that character, give you the tools and everything you need to build your character. But at the end of the day, you walking out of our workshop experience with the tools. I don't run up to you to make you bang the hammer, use the spade, use the screwdriver, all of these tools that we get, that we give you to build your character. You build your character. And so you build character daily. But if a person is not character conscious, and part of our approach, Inga, to our character development mission and focus in this country is to create character conscious leaders, character conscious company cultures, character conscious young people. So every decision that you make every day, it's based on your character conscious. Everything that you do and say, before you do something, say something. What does my character say about this? That is why the quotation that I mentioned earlier on, your character is your protection, because when you're about to do something, you got to check with your character. Your character is your alarm clock that warns you. It's like a bleeper that goes off in your head. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And it prevents you and it protects you from doing what you should not be doing. So, Inga, I know that was a mouthful. Before you, please don't say, let's land the plane right now, okay? Because I know you love, you at some point you're going to say, Shawn, let's just land this plane. As you can see,
Well, we are close, Shawn. We are close.
we are close to landing the plane. I fully understand. But let me just throw it back at you quickly. Any thoughts from your side? Just so I can hear what you have to say quickly.
Well, yes. I mean, I think if I have to tie a ribbon around what you've just said now, is that I think at the end of the day, is that for me, importantly, it's you, as much as yes, you want to develop character, I don't think it is purely just in the camp of teaching it.
Yes.
But we modeling character.
Absolutely.
And I think there's this axiom which we seriously just have to lay to rest. And it's the one that says, do as I say, don't do as I do.
Oh,
And
yes. Absolutely.
you spoke about and I like that you took that approach about um, the systemic impact and institutions within that system that all have an impact on youth development. And I also just wanna highlight that, you know, some of our audience might also know me personally and know that I'm not married, I don't have children, so who am I to tell parents or to agree with you on you know what parents should be doing. All that I just want to say is I do believe that I have and can speak on authority in terms of that, because at the end of the day, that lovely young person is going to step into the world of work. That lovely young person is going to grow up into an adult that at some point in my walk of life, I'm going to be interacting with. And so if they are behaving, or rather, if they don't have a good, healthy character in place, guess who is on the receiving end of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and that is why I'm so emphatic about it, because again, it's about I'm wanting to see transformation and I'm wanting to see the change and the shift out there. And so yes, I think as lecturers, as teachers, as leaders within a business that have got young people within their teams, understand. Stop thinking in your mind, this young person must respect me, this young person must do as I say and not do as I do. That's a cop out. Hear me when I say this. That's a cop out. You have to ask yourself, do I exhibit the right type of behaviors that reflect good character? And I think also what's important to highlight is that for us as adults in our mid career journey, mid life journey, all is not lost. So yes, I think that the power in change is when you actually come to a pit stop or a point where you just sort of pause and say, you know what, I've not done life very well. Yes, I have made some questionable decisions. I've made some decisions that I knew was not right, and yet I still went along and I did it.
Yes.
For me, all is not lost when such an individual can pause and say, enough is enough. I have to do differently. I have to do better, because guess what? I'm aware of the impact of my behavior, of my decisions on someone else, a young person that's watching me. I'm not even aware, but they're watching me. Absolutely. And so the question is, what are they seeing and what are they learning? And can I then actually say and feel comfortable when I say, you should respect me, young woman, you should respect me, young man, and know and be confident in the fact that the behavior that they've seen is worthy of respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth. If I were to ask the question, Inga, look at our young people in society today. If I were to ask parents, all of the adults around the world, look at your young people. What is the concern that you have with them? What is your concern? What is your complaint? What is your issues? What are you fearful about? And I can answer that question for you. You might not have thought of it this way, but I'll answer the question for you. I'll put it into perspective for everyone watching today. The concern and the issue and the fear that we have for our young people is that we are raising a generation of characterless young people. The behavior shows that they are characterless. How they treat each other shows that there's a lack of character, or there's a lack of character development. Their choices and their decisions is proof that there are character issues. How they treat property in this country, how they treat one another, how they treat women, how they treat each other. And I'm talking about all the way from primary school kids on the school playground, from levels of bullying in that environment, all the way to bullying right into the highest echelons of corporate governments. Look at the behavior for our young people, and I will put it into perspective for you right now. You may have never seen it this way, because you want the life of our young people, you want the life of your young people and the general population to change. You want them to be better, but you couldn't quite put your finger on what is it, the thing that needs to change. I am answering that question for you. It's character. You're concerned as much as you want the young people in this country to be skilled, educated, talented, and gifted, and charismatic, and all of those things that we love about our young people. The thing that you want more than anything else is that you want them to be young people of character. I can almost guarantee, and I don't have the time to get into this demonstration with you, Inga, but as part of what I normally do during my presentations, and I ask the parents in the audience how many of them have daughters, and quite a few of them put their hand up, and I said, okay, imagine your daughter brings home a young man one day. Man, the guy's handsome. He drives a beautiful car. He's got a good job. He's got a good house. He's got all of the fancy jewelry. He's kitted out, name brands from head to toe. He speaks well, eloquent. Man, he's highly impressive. Bank balances, even though you don't know the bank balance, but just based on what you can see and what he's saying, you know, he's going to take care of your daughter financially. At that point, to ask the parents, does he look as if he is an ideal candidate for your daughter? And many of them would say yes, based on what they see. Many of them say no, because there are things you don't see. And I say, but what are the things that you don't see? What do you still need to see? What do you still need to see to give your hand of marriage to this young person, to give him permission to marry them? You know what it all comes down to at the end of the day? Character. The parent, the father, especially the father, would say, I don't care what he looks like. He can drive his car out of my yard. I don't care. If his character is weak, I don't care. He must not come back to my house. He will never get my blessing. Why? Because we all know, as adults, Inga, we all know that a person who lacks character, no matter how smart, bright, intelligent, gifted they are, wealthy they are, it doesn't matter how popular, influential you are, at the end of the day, within interpersonal relationship, that person is going to abuse you. Your daughter is never safe with a person who lacks character. Let me say that to all of the parents out there. Your daughter is not safe with a person who lacks character. And the same if your son is not safe with a young girl, young woman who lacks character. Inga, I know you want to be landing the plane very soon. Let me just share a couple
fuel is expensive. Fuel is expensive, Shawn, so we can't be circling the runway. But I also don't want to. I know you want to land a lot of important concepts. So, but I'll give you the space to do so.
Absolutely, and like I mentioned to you the last time, what's more than landing the plane is crashing the plane. So before we crash,
absolutely. So let's do it carefully.
let's do this. Parents are in competition with other parents to produce the most prettiest, handsome, popular, fashionable, smart, clever, gifted, athletic, and academically successful children. Yet very few seem to be bothered with producing children with the most strength of character. So basically what I want to do is just drop a few nuggets that is going to be what parents just taking some time and thinking and processing right now, not just parents, but everyone else. We cannot risk our future by placing it in the hands of future leaders whose personal character has not been prepared to lead the future. The very same youth whose character we neglect to build and prepare now are the very same youth in whose hands our future lies. Building of character starts in the home. I'm going to speak to parents very quickly. Building of character starts in the home. As a parent, you are the first and the most powerful example and influence of character for your children. First and most powerful. Your home is their school of character and you are their teacher. The character that you model, and Inga, you talked about this role modeling character behavior. The character that you as a parent model in your home will lay the foundation for the character, for their character for the rest of their lives. Do not depend on the schooling system, no tertiary institutions or educational institutions to raise your children and your young people or to prepare their character. You have no idea what's the condition of the character of those teachers and of those lecturers and of those employers. You have no idea what their level of characters.
Spot on.
As a parent and as an adult, our failure to be character conscious in the home and to intentionally raise our children to be people of character in the home has created a characterless, lawless, bullying, unethical, easily influenced and weak generation of young people who have become a problem that society and other people now have to deal with. And I often ask parents this question, and I pose this question to parents, and many of them often get offended when I pose this question, but I'm unapologetic in it. If you are not raising your son and your daughter to be character conscious, you are going to be raising a problem for society. I don't care whether they are academically the most brilliant kid at the school, gifted, talented in terms of sports and athletic, etc., etc. If the foundation of character is not present, you are going to be raising a problem for society. The reason why there is a lack of character in society, in our schools, in our universities, and especially in our workplaces, is because we have neglected the role of character in the home, Inga. In our obsession to raise the most gifted, smart, intelligent, bright, talented, popular, fashionable, academically successful children, be intentional also about raising them to be young people of character. Character-conscious parents create character-conscious homes, character-conscious home cultures that produce character-conscious young people. So I'm going to take it out of the home very quickly. Character-conscious company cultures create character-conscious leaders who create character-conscious young people. Your home is their school of character. So if your home is their school of character, let your household produce for society the young people of character that society needs. But it starts with your character. It starts with you being character conscious and being intentional, being absolutely intentional about raising your young people to be people of character. Inga, I'm going to be closing in a few moments, but Let me say this. Imagine what would have happened. Imagine what would have happened if we raised the previous generation, or if the current generation of leaders were raised to be people of character. Imagine if the current generation of leaders done character development in their past. Do you think that we would have this level of corruption, toxicity, abuse, misuse of power of people and position that we have in this country, the levels of greed and intimidation and toxicity? We would not have this level, this pandemic of characterlessness and this leadership crisis that we would not be having the problems with leadership that we have right now in this country had we spent the time, spent the money, invested in the past in developing the character of our young people. Having said that, are we going to be learning from our past? Because if we are not investing in the character development of our young people, we are not going to be reproducing a new generation of leaders. We are going to be reproducing the same caliber of characterless leaders in our future leaders. So we're going to be producing for our country and for our continent, for all of our societies, a perpetual cycle of characterless leaders. So instead of raising our children, our young people to be leaders, we need to raise them first to be people of character, because they are people first before they are leaders. And I often say this, Inga, that there seems to be a race to leadership. The race to leadership is not even a race. This mentality and pressure to be and to produce leaders has created an overproduction of characterless leaders. I'm going to say that again, because within company cultures, and it's a tick box exercise, we've sent so many staff on leadership development programs. So many of our young people have done this leadership program, this youth development program, etc. And it's a tick box exercise. Let me say this mentality and pressure to produce leaders that has created an overproduction of characterless leaders that has created our leadership crisis. Don't be fooled. The world does not need more leaders. The world does not need more young leaders either. What the world needs and what society needs, what South Africa needs and what Africa needs is more people of character. And it is from these people of character, these young people of character, that leaders of character need to be built on. It is from these people of character that leaders of character need to be developed and need to be built. You don't create character in leaders. We have to do it now. Why? Because they want people of character, but you produce leaders of character by making them and developing them into people of character before they become leaders of character. So Inga, I'm going to take the initiative and kind of like land the plane myself. We don't want to go on too much longer. There's so much more that I really want to say, but for the sake of time, I think we just rather park it off there. Can I just give one more statement before I hand it back to you, Inga? And can I speak to Africa? Right, let me just speak to Africa, to all my African brothers and sisters out there. There is no denying the wealth, the power, and the potential of Africa. I think we all know that. However, Africa cannot rise until the character of its leaders, and especially its young leaders, its future young leaders, rise. A wealthy continent, rich and strong in natural resources, will always be poor and will always be weak if the character of its leaders, present leaders, and its future leaders is weak. A rich continent with poor leadership weakens the continent and keeps its people poor. Africa is on the rise, but only to the height and the strength of the character of its future leaders. I'll repeat that last sentence. Africa is on the rise, but only, terms and conditions apply, Inga, only to the height and the strength of the character of its future leaders. We, as an organization, the All Things Are Possible group, we do leadership and character development. We do women leadership character development. We do leadership character development. We do leadership character coaching. We speak to companies and to cultures. We speak to organizations. I do leadership speaking, conference speaking. And so if you are interested in what we've talked about today, there's so much more. There's much more that needs to be talked and discussed. And Inga, isn't that part of the issue? And I really appreciate you and I applaud you. I recognize you and acknowledge you for you taking the time to talk about character. Because generally in society, Inga, people are not talking about character. Companies are not talking about character. Government is not talking about character. Parents are not talking about character. Conferences are not talking about character. Your platform has created an opportunity for us to talk about character. And so if anyone is out there who's interested in who we are, what it is that we have to say, and if you're interested in developing your young people, you want to know more, you want your young people to be people of character, please feel free to reach out to me, connect with me, invite me to speak at your youth leadership conferences. I'll make myself available and to share much more insights as to leadership and character, Inga.
I love that, and thank you again. That I do believe that when you're able to create a platform to have these kind of profound and powerful conversations, do it, because if it's not being done, we will perpetuate and continue to create and deepen a society of apathy. Because
absolutely.
it's sad. It saddens me to see everything that's happening out there, I and it's funny that ever since you and I started engaging, whatever I watch, whatever I
You
see
see
out in the
character
world,
everywhere, right? You
I
see
see
character
character
everywhere.
everywhere,
Absolutely.
and I see a lack of the character, you know. So
I'm glad you
these
said that.
conversations, yeah,
And you haven't, and listen, you haven't even been on the workshop itself, but just based on our discussions, our interaction, the friendship
yes,
we have, just by my influence, you have become character
yes,
conscious because of our level of
absolutely,
discussions on character consciousness. So now when you
yeah.
see something, you can see through the eyes and the filter of character, and you can identify where character problems are as opposed to what skills problem. And that's exactly the power of these discussions, the power of this,
Spot
power of this.
on.
Absolutely.
Spot on. And so, in my excitement of getting into and stuck into this conversation with you, Shawn, I realized I never introduced myself to our audience. I'm just making the assumption people know I am. So, for that, I do apologize. I am Inga Love, founder and CEO of IL People Solutions Consulting. I specialize in organizational transformation and bringing that about through purpose-driven change, coaching, and specifically growth mindset coaching. I'm an internationally certified coach. The methodology that I apply is neurolingual programming and life coaching. So I, with that plug, shameless plug of mine, Shawn, what I want to just say to our audience is that yes, these are tough nuggets and tough things to chew on, but I think what I want to encourage our audience with is that our mind is our brain is an amazing organ. Our
Yes.
brain is neuroplastic. So
Mm-mm.
what that means is that there's no behavior so deeply entrenched that we are
Yes.
not able to, I don't want to say undo, but we are able to create and encode new neural pathways, new
Absolutely.
ways of behaving. And for me, that's encouraging that through that form of coaching, you can learn these new concepts. You can learn to behave differently and to think differently.
Mm-mm.
And by through coaching, you are always able to, I almost want to say, equip yourself with
Mm-mm.
continuous ways of improving. So I'm going to leave that there because yeah, I'm working on a series of what coaching is, and just in terms of my own business. So
Absolutely.
people can watch it there. But
Absolutely.
I
Again,
think it's important that, sorry,
yeah.
yes?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. All I wanted to say was I think it's so important, and that is the whole purpose of the Ideas Exchange community, is that we're sharing one conversation at a
Yeah. Yeah.
time. However, I also want to encourage those as part of the community to collaborate, to
Mhm.
actually come together, those who have got complementary offerings,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
I think it's in the marriage of those complementary
Yeah.
offerings that you can create sustainable, transformative solutions and
Absolutely.
change. Um,
I fully agree with you, and I have to make mention of this, Inga, that in terms of what it is that you are doing, you've created not just a space to exchange ideas, even though that's what it's called, because the exchange, if the exchanging of ideas does not lead to the implementing of ideas exchanged, all you've done was exchange ideas. Don't ask me to
Absolutely.
repeat that. Just don't ask me to repeat that. That was a
Fortunately, we can watch back on our own
we can watch it.
podcast.
Okay, there
So
we go. I know that your approach to the ideas exchange is to exchange ideas, but lead to the implementation of ideas exchange. There needs to be a
absolutely,
follow-up. It needs to create change.
there
Ideas
has to be
that are
action.
there needs to be action. And so that's why I love your podcast and your Ideas Exchange program. And even for you as an individual, in terms of your coaching, your executive coaching, what you do for individual leaders and managers on executive level and all levels of leadership and management, and for organizations, that's exactly your approach. And I really want to encourage people out there to connect with Inga and just hear what she has to offer, because she's absolutely powerful, had amazing value to transforming company cultures and individuals. Just as a parting word from my side, Inga, and I'm sure you can agree with this, that, and I've said this at the last session that we had, that sometimes the most powerful and effective form of motivation and inspiration is a reality check. A reality check is when somebody tells you what you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it, right? But obviously, it needs to be said in the right way.
It's how it's delivered. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's something that I've coined, and I haven't heard anybody say this phrase, so I'm going to claim it as our own because it came from my own spirit. Part of what we do as an organization and our approach, we refer to we don't, it's not really training that we do, because training is too generic. We love to refer to as what we do as empowerment and transformation. And so the term that I use is provocative empowerment. We do provocative empowerment. All right? It's going to provoke you, but it's going to empower you.
Absolutely.
We even realize that part of the process of empowerment is to be provoked. And that's part of the reason why many people are not empowered, is because of their willingness to be provoked. And so these types of discussions, these types of talks, these types of nuggets, the content, the insights, especially from our side in terms of our approach, is that we do provocative empowerment and not just training. And that's the reason why we are successful in terms of personal development, personal transformation, is because it provokes. But we take the provocativeness, right? And we mold it, we shape it, not even shape it, we what's the word? The word is failing me right now. We surround it with love. We surround it with compassion. We surround it with caring. We surround it with caring for people. So it's not just a matter of us coming into an audience of people with a stick in our hand and just dropping these bombs, saying we love people, we empower people, we want to care for you, we want to love you, we want you to go to the next level. But it's going to be provocative. Provocative empowerment is what we do. And if that's of interest to you, reach out.
Yes, I was just going to say, so for our audience out there, and if you want to know who that audience would be, it is anybody in the corporate space. Yes. It is anybody who has been tasked to bring life to your leadership framework and just your leadership culture. It's you who is in the education system. So whether it is at schools or whether it's at our TVET colleges, our technical vocational education training institutions, which is more, excuse me, for the purpose of an international audience, that's more related to South Africa. We have those, I think overseas it might be referred to as technical colleges, I suppose. I don't know.
Sure, what anyone who's in any educational institution who's learning.
Any educational, yeah. So those are the individuals. If that is you and you're looking around and you don't know who that is, then it is you. If you want to be provocatively empowered and you want your leadership program to be provocatively empowered, as well as your youth development, with anything under the banner of leadership, but you want to do it with a difference, right? Yes. So if you have literally had this aha moment listening to Shawn and myself, and you say, you know what? We have to do leadership with a difference. It has to be character-based leadership. Yes. Shawn Naidu, how do these individuals get hold of you and where can they find you?
Thank you very much. Email address, shawn@atapgroup.co.za. Shawn@atapgroup. That's Shawn, SHAWN, @atapgroup, ATAP, atapgroup.co.za. Please feel free to give me an email, drop me an email. Phone number +27, because I'm expecting people from around the world to be called in.
Absolutely. This is a movement.
Absolutely. +27 82 662 1853. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Shawn Naidu, Naidu with the U, Naidu, Shawn Naidu, ATAP group, Shawn Naidu, the ATAP group. And obviously I'm on Facebook as well, Shawn Naidu, at Shawn Naidu 7, at Shawn Naidu 7. But LinkedIn is my main focus. I put lots of content out on LinkedIn. Please feel free to visit my profile. Have a look at the post. You'll enjoy it. You will be provoked. And it will inspire you as well. So thank you, Inga. I look forward to it.
Thank you so much for that, Shawn. For those of you who are still experiencing whiplash and was not able to write down all of those details on how to get hold of Shawn fast enough, please do not despair. I will also add all of the important links and ways of how to get hold of Shawn in the description box. Shawn, again, thank you. As always, insightful, thought-provoking, and transformative conversations that we have. And thank you again for setting aside some time to join me on the Ideas Exchange podcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for the invitation back, and I'm looking forward to the next podcast with you as well. All of the best.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.